Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning everybody. I am so sorry for all the delay in the Google Meet room and the Google stream. So I hope everything is okay now. A really warm welcome to our webinar session for today, brought to you by the Faculty of Hotel and Tourism Management UiTM. You have to all hold on to your seat and be with us throughout this session because we have a very interesting session for you this morning because we have not one, not two, but three amazing chefs. But before we get into it, let me just introduce myself and my team. My name is Firdaus Hanan. I am a lecturer at the Department of Culinary Arts and Gastronomy. And with me today, I have Professor Dr. Muhammad Salihuddin Muhammad Zari, Dean of Faculty of Hotel and Tourism Management, or in Malay, Fakulti Pengurusan Hotel dan Pelancongan, hence the word FPHP Webinar Series. In a while, Prof will be joining us to share his closing remarks. Also from the faculty, we have Associate Professor Dr. Fazila and Puan Alina Shuhaida that will be moderating the chat function. I will get into that in a while. And Dr. Fitri and Auntie Shakif that will be managing both the Google Meet and Google Stream. So if you have any problem, please contact them. And all of us, Puan Alina, Dr. Fazila, me and Dr. Fitri are all from the same faculty. And in the faculty, they are actually the master in also heritage food. So if you have anything that you want to know about food and anything else, please come to us. Before we proceed, please let me explain the format of our session. The discussion will be done in a forum format and will take around 50 minutes without any break in between. So if you need to go to the toilet, please go now because once we start, we're going to just race through it. For any question or comment, please post it on the chat function on the right-hand side of your Google Meet for those who are joining us in the Google Meet. And I will post your question to the specific panelists that you are meant to at the end of our forum. And Puan Alina and Dr. Fazila will be helping me with the question. However, this chat function is sadly only available for our participants that is joining us through Google Meet. For those that is joining us through Google Stream link, unfortunately, you won't be able to post any question, but at the end of the session, I will share the contact details for all our panelists and you can straight away contact them. Okay. And also at the end of the session, we will display a QR code and posting the link in the chat function for registration and feedback. Please fill in your details accordingly because we will provide an e-certificate through your email and everyone and training hours specifically for UiTM staff. And lastly, I would like to remind everyone to kindly make sure that your microphone and camera are turned off throughout the session to ensure no interruption. That's a mouthful. Anyway, so now that we have got all the formalities out of the way, let me just get to the main reason why we are here. The topic that we have chosen for our discussion is nak makan apa ni? Tapi kat mana? Or in English, what food are we going to have? But where? This is in relation to the eating norms and behavior in times of COVID-19. I'm sure that at some point of our life, we must have been asked of this very relevantly Malaysian question because food and eating out with friends has always been an important part of our culture. However, during this COVID-19, as we've been saying with Darren just now, there has been a surge of food-related contents online. Could this be an indicator that Malaysians are now more hands-on with cooking? And due to the CMO, and now our MCMO, has the consumption trend in Malaysia changed? Other than that, we will also ask our panelists to share with us their thought on our heritage food, Malaysian food. Why is our food have not been getting the international recognition that I'm sure we deserve? And what can we, as culinarian, because most of our participant viewers today is actually culinary students, what can we do to make sure that it's going to happen in the future and what can we do now? And lastly, we will try to get insight and glimpse into the fascinating world of celebrity chef, and hopefully our panelists can shed a brighter light for some of us that maybe are interested to join this glimmering industry one day, or maybe just interested to know what actually goes on behind the camera. There you go. that is our topic. Now, let me introduce to you our star-studded panelist lineup for today. Our first chef panelist may have never had his own cooking show on TV before. However, he is on his own standard a celebrity among culinary industry people. We are so delighted to have Darren Teoh with us this morning. And Darren specifically told me not to call him chef, and because I am afraid of him and his mustache, so I'm going to call him Darren. Darren is actually the head chef at Dewakan, a restaurant that serves modern Malaysian cuisine, Malaysian cuisine using indigenous ingredients. If you go to Dewakan, you have seen all the ingredients I've never seen at any other restaurant. In 2019, this is important, under Darren, Dewakan became the first and only Malaysian restaurant to be included in the prestigious Asia 50 Best Restaurant list. And so for those who never are aware of this list, the culinary might know it. This is a list that every restaurant all around the world want to get into. So congratulations, Dewakan. Hopefully in the future, more restaurants will join that list. Recently, Darren was named in the Asia Talent list of New Asia's most powerful, influential, and stylish people to know in 2020. And I laugh not because of Darren, but only because when you think of a working chef, you never thought they would anyhow be described as stylish. However, our second panelist is a stylish female chef, without a doubt, who doesn't really need any more introduction. That is why I'm very delighted to be welcoming onto the session Chef Nabilah. Anis has been gracing our TV for more than 13 years with over 50 TV show appearances across Asia. Chef Nabilah is the only Malaysian chef to have appeared on all the lifestyle and food channels in Asia. Anis was also the first Malaysian celebrity chef to be on Food Network Asia and the youngest chef on Asian Food Channel. And we are also so delighted to welcome the third celebrity chef panelist, Chef Amran, onto our session. He is also a culinary expert, author, fashion enthusiast, and entrepreneur from Johor. You name it, whatever it is related to food, Chef Adu would have tried his hands on. He first appeared on Malaysian TV culinary scene where he became one of the judges on popular reality TV show MasterChef Malaysia. And I can tell you, Chef Adu, most of our students, when they came to UiTM, the first class, we asked them, why do you enroll in this class? They will say, it's because I watched MasterChef when I was younger. Since then, he had a lot of TV appearances, hosted few other cooking shows, and published numerous cookbooks both in Malay and English. And currently, he is actually live from Adu Sugar, where he is the executive chef and director. Boy, what did I tell you? A star-studded celebrity chef on our panelists. There you go, as promised, a group of the brightest and most experienced chefs in our local culinary and TV industry. However, the bad news is none of the chefs is actually going to be cooking today, and we won't be serving any food during this webinar, so you just have to wait, because what we offer to you is actually a lot of their experience, their knowledge that we're going to dig out of them. All right, are we ready? Okay, so my first question is for you, Darren. In your opinion, how has the COVID-19 changed the way Malaysia consume? And maybe just not the COVID, since the first time you start Dewakan, it was always been a fine dining. How did you see any different on how Malaysian consume?
Okay, so I think that's a multi-layered question. My thoughts on Malaysian eating habits are that we're not really particularly a dining society. We're not really a dining community. We're an eating community. We consume, well, we eat for many reasons, and although most of them are not, most of them are social in terms of how familial ties or from familial dynamics react. I think things have regressed or evolved in the past 20 or 30 years, and we've moved from not only an eating, a nation of eaters, we've become a nation of consumers. So we're very, very big on consumption. We consume everything. We consume media, we consume food, we consume natural resources. So I think in terms of I mean, how else could you justify something like all the malls that exist in just within the KL area alone, right? So I think that that's quite related to the way that the buying behavior is for restaurants and for food items. And as to how the recent pandemic has related to that is that I mean, well, I think, like I mentioned earlier, it was really just sort of like a quick stop, or at least there was this sort of like there was this very abrupt break in our consumption patterns, and because that happened, and for a while, people were forced to consume differently over the past 2 or 3 months. And then now things are sort of like picking up again, and then you see that sort of same consumption habit start to pick up again. Now, I mean, I can't say what the future is like, but I feel like maybe sometimes it's. Well, I was thinking about it the other day, and I thought that it's similar to someone who's like probably stopped smoking for a while. So if you've been smoking your whole life, and then after that, for like you stop smoking for like 2 to 3 weeks, and all it takes is like a little smell of burnt tobacco, and then suddenly you have the cravings to like start smoking again. So I think Malaysian consumption is a little bit like that. Oh, you're on mute though.
What about you, Chef Adu? Because you have been in industry also quite for some times, because you opened your first restaurant in Penang, right? Campur.
Langkawi.
Langkawi, sorry.
Yeah.
And then you move all the way back to UK, and then you come back here. Do you see any different from the first time you opened Campur and now you're back here with 2 other restaurants and now with Adu Sugar?
Well, that's a long journey, isn't it? I mean, I opened Langkawi, Campur Langkawi in 1994, and then moved to England in 1997 and opened Campur London year 2000. And then I just opened Adu Sugar. Well, it's been only a year. I can say I could see the changes, but I don't see, that's not much of a change really in terms of the eating habit of Malaysians, because my menu has always been the same. I mean, like when I had Campur Langkawi, I was only merely 24. And I was really gung-ho about fusion food and like trying to combine East and West and all that stuff. But I'm now kind of like back to my roots, kind of like basically giving whatever the food that I was growing up eating. But the problem that I see is basically they start comparing. You charge a restaurant price, and then they compare you with a stall's price. When they say something is, oh, this is expensive, I said, expensive compared to who? Compared to what, and they don't really have the answer for that, because they don't understand what goes on into, a restaurant operation, and what time we get up and start preparing and creating and all that stuff, and, and also the research that goes into it. I mean, for example, I spent 1 week in Muar alone just to research on mi bandung. I grew up eating mi bandung, but I take these things very, very seriously. And then you present it to them and you charge them just up over 30 ringgit. Oh, this is mahal, this is expensive. Then, so I don't see much changes. Of course, there's restaurant like Dewakan. I've been to Dewakan, and, and we can see the changes, but only, I think it's just on the tip of the iceberg, really. But underneath all that, I think our eating habit is still the same, But with the COVID-19 and more people, the good thing is that more and more people start cooking. But the bad thing is that more and more people making cooking videos without knowing how to cook, So that's bad and good. Everybody has a cooking video now,
Yeah.
You name it, So I don't mind. Everybody can do that. But the thing is, okay, whether we just cook and put something on the video, or whether we cook something and we share to the world that, oh, this is the right way of doing things or whatever, that's a choice. But I think the best choice is to basically have some sort of depth about what we're cooking, what we're sharing, especially when it comes to health and safety and all that stuff, you know. But that's really,
Agree. And Anis, you have been doing TV show for 13 years now. So do you see any different with on how what people want from all the cooking show from the moment that you start until now?
Well, to be completely in the last 13 years, most of the I've done, I don't personally produce, so it's networks that I work with. So I never really had a say to the direction that the show is. I do have in the food that the recipes that I share. So I guess the different channels, they have different concept and they have different targeted audience, and you know it depends on the networks that I work with basically. But I have been doing a lot since the MC started this year, a lot of content myself, and it's not really the, good quality recorded type of content. It's more of like putting it on a broken tripod and just doing what I do at home. And the reason being, like, why I'm sharing a lot more now is because I felt like, as Chef Adu mentioned, a lot of people are cooking at home. And I think that is also a coping mechanism for a lot of people. And, parents, they have sort of cook for their children and stuff like that during the MC, because in the beginning stages, in the beginning stage of the MCO, people didn't know if it was safe to consume food outside, if it was safe to open outside and stuff like that. So there's a big trend of you can see it online that people are going to the kitchen, everyone's a baker, started baking, getting hundreds of messages on a daily basis from people, asking for all sorts of recipes. And I think it's amazing because, 30 years ago, why I started doing, why I didn't really pursue my career, from line, is because I've always felt like it's important to, share my knowledge with people and encourage people to learn how to cook. 13 years ago, cooking was not something that is fun or cool to be doing. Being a chef was not, you're a chef, it's so cool. Like now chefs are rock stars. It's called tukang masak, and you've got to have a certain amount of years of being in the industry, knowing the people in it, working and certain people to be taken seriously. And I remember when I started, that was my main point, to just encourage people to cook, because I really believe that it is a skill that you need,
Yeah, I agree.
And it's important for you to know what you consume. But back then, it was, as Darren mentioned, the trend is different, people don't really, people eat to live, basically. And now that, some of us have got the spending power, we can actually, spend our money on experiences. So now some of us are more particular about what we consume. And, since the MCO started, that is basically like I've been doing, in sharing recipes online and stuff like that, is to basically encourage people to get in, know your consumer. And it's a big trend at the moment, I feel.
Yeah, I agree with you. And what you have been doing a lot of online cooking content. Do you get any feedback of actually what people want to eat now? What is the current food that is in craze? I know at some point it's all about baking because they want to show off that I can bake, and they also have the Facebook page, which is called the Nak Masak Apa Pun Tak Jadi. I don't know if you guys are aware of that Facebook, where all the home cook post all their disaster in the kitchen. So do you get any feedback of what people want to watch when they watch your content online?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like comfort food, and there's a lot of local stuff, I feel. My roti canai video did really, really well. And if you think about it, it's just roti canai, right? But because people have a lot more time on their hands, and I think something as roti canai, which they easily get the frozen ones, they're starting to learn. So those are some of the things, like really easy, basic things like scrambled eggs. Well, and if I put anything like in a roast dinner, that really works that well, I think.
Yeah.
Teaching people how to make your own stock, stuff like that, which I don't think many Malaysians have patience for that.
How about you, Chef Adu? Because I did see some of your video. I didn't watch all of it because it's a lot, and it's quite interesting because some of the thing that you post is not necessarily a whole complete meal. It was just a accompaniment like sambal, and then you teach people on how to hold their knife. This is the content that people are going for online now.
Well, actually, I started doing the videos. I had never done any cooking videos at home or at restaurants or whatever, because for me, in my view, for me, when I'm cooking, it's quite personal, because that's why, my kitchen is always separated from the dining area in all my restaurants, because I'm quite personal in that sort of sense. But then came COVID. I actually posted one video just one day before COVID. The response was really, really good. People started DMing me, asking about the recipes and blah, blah, blah. And I got really excited about it, because believe you me, all I wanted to be when I was a kid was to be a teacher. So, I didn't want to be a chef or whatever, So when I started doing that, and when I started getting good response, and I did, I checked, I've done almost 100 recipes since the MCO started I started on the 17th of March. So then it became my new norm for myself. Now I'm kind of like addicted to share what I cook, but what normally I cooked in those videos, they're all very simple things or whatever, but also I am being completely myself, if I have to swear, I will just swear, because, but this is not TV, this is just my own video. Watch it if you like it, if you don't watch it, if you don't like it, don't watch it, kind of thing, But the thing is, I always slip in tips and, health and safety, or you touch raw meat or whatever, please go and wash your hands and blah, blah, blah. But having said that, some TV shows that I did even cut that bit off when I washed my hands after I touched the chicken. So then, I looked bad, but sometimes the TV channel doesn't understand that, because we don't have a panel of chefs that run the TV shows for cooking, sections or whatever. Anyway. So the video started from basically just doing that to entertain myself, and what I cooked was what I eat. Basically, on that day, I don't like spending too much time in the kitchen, to be quite honest. If it's not work, then I don't want to. 20 minutes is max when I cook for myself, unless I have a party or whatever. So when people ask, can you do this? Can you do that? No, the answer is I cannot do that, because that's not what I'm going to eat. I'm going to eat this, so you just watch this, and then, I cook once, and I eat for lunch, and I eat for dinner. And I am a very simple eater when it comes to that.
Yeah, thank you. So Darren, in one of your interviews that I watched recently, you told the viewers that during the CMO you basically didn't do anything. You're just reading, watch TV, like all of us. So, but you have always stayed true in Dewakan about promoting indigenous ingredient. This is something that that was attracting to us, even in the faculty, even in the culinary industry. So, if I may say, if I ask you, what is actually Malaysian food to you? If you can define it, I know it's going to be a huge, crazy definition, but is it about feeling? Is it about what it meant or the history part of it?
So that's also why do I get all these multi-layered questions? Okay, so I think that we can't look at our cuisine and from like a very specific time, and I think there's nothing wrong with the definition of Malaysian cuisine that we have now. That's not what I'm saying, but I do feel that it's a very incomplete picture of what Malaysian cooking is. You know, and if you look at something as quintessential as, say, a char kway teow, right? The truth of the matter is that if you actually had to trace the historical root of that dish, you know, you're going to find yourself up in China somewhere, because it's impossible to imagine that someone was not frying, you know, flat rice noodles with soy sauce and bean sprouts. You know, and it's the same also with things like, which are also quite quintessential Malay cooking in terms of for example, like a jemput wisang, or what's the one with the fritter with prawns?
Cucudang.
Yeah. So like, I mean, if you look at something like that, right? Looking at just the cooking technique and the ingredients, we find the flaw in it being something that originates from our culture, or at least from the Malay culture, simply because you have no tepung gandum, it doesn't grow anywhere on the peninsula, right? We import all of it, and the technique of deep frying in oil. Now, just without a historical context, I would just imagine that logically it would be very difficult for you to deep fry in that much amount of fat, simply because we don't have animals that contribute that amount of fat. And the second is that the oil that you would use the most natural one I would think of is probably coconut oil, and not everybody would have had access to that, right? So I mean, just from a deduction point of view, it's difficult to imagine that something like the cucuk undang was not introduced. Is it part of Malaysian culture now? Yes, it is. But did it originate from here? Maybe not, you know. And I think that what would be interesting for educational institutes is to have instead of looking, when you do like your dissertation papers and things like that, it would be interesting to have studies that are geared towards collecting first-hand information about some historical context about what Malaysian cooking is about. You know, so I can't rightly say what Malaysian cooking is. It is what it is now. If you ask me, one of the most Malaysian dishes in KL right now is probably ayam goreng McD's, right? Because, simply because of the amount of frequency it experiences, right? Like, everybody eats ayam goreng McD's, and the amount of chicken that they consume, or if it's not ayam goreng McD's, maybe even KFC. Think about it from a sociological, anthropological point of view. 200 years from now, can you imagine the amount of KFC boxes and chicken bones they're going to dig up when there's this like search in city, right? What's the first assumption they're going to think? They're going to think, wow, these guys ate a lot of chicken and they ate a lot of this thing called KFC, right? And that is currently our culinary heritage that we are passing on to the next generation. And like, and I feel that both our esteemed chefs here have mentioned some really interesting things. So Adu is talking about cooking, heritage cooking, which is what he does and what he shares. And Anis is talking about sharing her knowledge. And I think these are really important aspects that, if we can nurture it and grow it to a point where we combine this with some sort of academic rigor,
Mhm.
might be able to form a culture that remembers and appreciates what we have sort of lost in the last, 50, 60 years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in an era with, I grew up in the 80s, right? And it was not very long ago. It's like, what, 30, well, wow, yeah, it is kind of long ago, but it's not as long as I thought it was. It's not long. Yeah, and I remember my diet not having a lot of meat. I live with my grandmother and my mom's on my mom's side, and she was Indian, Malayali by heritage, and we didn't eat a lot of meat. And I remember that chicken was like
The festival food.
yeah, it was festival. It was on the weekend or something like this, and then fish was like every day because you could get chincharu, you can get like small shrimp. It was really it was cheaper, and they were super fresh, and the variety was a lot more than what it is now. And you'd be able, and that was our diet before, but our diets really changed, right? And our diets really changed because we as a people have changed, but what I feel is lost is that the arduous tasks of retaining a historical culinary heritage is what seems to be quite lost. And I feel like if we continue in this direction, then Malaysian cuisine will be a lot simpler to understand, and it'll be like that.
Yeah, I agree, because the good thing about Chef Adu and Chef Anis is because they have the platform and they have the mass media, the viewers to back that up. So everything that they do, they can already access to the people. And the thing that we have to do now to promote first is to bring back people back into the kitchen, because it seems like Malaysian at one point of the time, they seems to go out from the kitchen. They know people are no longer eating, people are no longer cooking at home. So yeah, so oh, see, I lost. Okay, sorry. So, besides that, what other roles and responsibility do you think that the celebrity chef should place in the culture, in the society nowadays, Chef Adu?
In terms of preserving our historical cuisine?
Not just that, just also to disseminating and also to bring back people into the kitchen.
Well, I think, Anis and I have been doing that. Anis has been doing that, much longer than I have. I've just started, like I said early on, when we started the MCO. I think that's partly, I've got a lot of people now basically waiting for the video because they will emulate whatever that I cook and then will post it and will DM me. And it's kind of like a new society of people who never went to the kitchen, who are now cooking for their children, for their, family or whatever. So I think that's partly what we can do. And also, but the thing is, I think, like Anis has been in the industry for a long time anyway. So, if we can basically, like I said, even though it's the cooking as simple as making pencok, which is basically just pineapple, cucumber, and onion, and with some salt, that's all okay. But if we can basically slip in knowledge and information about all those ingredients that we use. For example, Chef Darren said that, okay, maybe cucuk udang might have not been invented in Malaysia. It might have been brought in from another culture, whatever, as a lot of food in our country, basically like the Malay food from Indonesia, Chinese food from China, blah, blah, blah. And then we made it ourselves. We made it our own after some years of cooking it, perfecting it, or basically giving it from, looking of doing it from an angle that we understand and we like. So that then became Malaysian food. So if we could all share, we all have histories, we all have families. So, the four of us may even have different kinds of history food that we grew up eating completely.
Yeah.
But there's a link of all of us. I always say the one thing that links us all, Asian people, is rice. So, Asian people will always eat rice, never mind they're from Pakistan or whatever. So, so if we take rice as a subject, for example, how much do we know about rice? A lot of us don't know, we just eat it. So if we can sort of, I mean, as you said, that we have platforms. So that, I mean, that's what I have been trying to do as well. So that's why I try to give the right information, not just for the health and safety reason, but also something that is connected culturally, because we are a multiracial country, which is not easy. So that, when defining Malaysian food, oh my God, I mean, like Chinese ke, Indian ke, Kristen ke, Malay ke, whatever. So I think all of that, of the above, put together,
Yeah. And whenever I watch Ani's cooking show or TV or videos online, I have this connotation. I cannot help myself to have this connotation that, oh, now she's making cooking to be classy, to be that you don't have to be a housewife with all the batik kurung and whatever to be associated to food. So this is something that I think what Anis is contributing, that you can be looking like Anis and still be in the kitchen and storm whatever food that you have. And I really think that is also a contribution that Anis do. But besides that, what else do you try to push, if I may use that word, on whenever that you make a video? What are the agenda that you have for the viewers, Anis?
Honestly, if I can, cook in my pajamas, I would so do that.
No, she wouldn't.
I just try my best, like in the videos that I do, I just try my best to look decent. That people don't think that, I just got out of bed and straight into the kitchen. But that aside, I try my best to share, the knowledge that I have. I have a big passion for local cuisine, for Malaysian cuisine, that may be. And I, at one point, I think about 10 years ago, I went to all the states in Malaysia and stayed in one kampong in every state and sort of just learn from, the head chef, basically, kampong chefs on the local cuisine, what they know to be as their traditional food. And during time, I learned so much. I got ingredients that I've never known before. So, I follow Dewakan. I'm a big fan of Dewakan, and I see like all the posts on all the indigenous ingredients. I'm learning so much from you guys, and I think that's an amazing thing you guys are doing. I remember not having that many access to like informations on like indigenous ingredients, and not just indigenous ingredients, like some ingredients that us in KL don't have access to, like we don't know, and I remember when I was traveling, I learned so many things, like ways, methods of cooking that we no longer practice here in Kuala Lumpur, but people in Perlis are still doing it, like roasting mud and stuff like that. Those that I would really share with the public. But as I mentioned before, I'm only able to do that when there's a TV channel that is interested in having such content. But I am, I share whatever I know. Every opportunity I have, like this webinar or interviews and stuff, and share as much knowledge as I can. But I definitely would love to do more, and I think I can in the future, and hoping that I'm able to create people like Darren and Chef Adu and UiTM itself to spread more, to learn more, and to spread more on what is indigenous. I think as both mentioned earlier, just what is, we cannot really define what Malaysian cuisine is. It changed. It like before this, people don't.
Sorry, we cannot really hear you.
Hold on, let me just check. Connect.
All right. Anyway, before while Anis is doing that, because Anis mentioned something that is very interesting to me also, because one of what Dewakan is doing is that they're trying to bring all these ingredients that is no longer available in the market. Can you imagine that it is easier for you to buy avocado in the market than to buy pucuk tenggek burung? Can you believe that? But this is our ingredient. So what can you just share with us what is Dewakan is doing with all the local ingredient and trying to bring the producer into the limelight more?
We have no idea what we're doing. I see barang, I buy, and then we bring it to the kitchen and we figure it out. But okay, so what we're trying, what I think has always been Dewakan's kind of like ideology is to try and answer what Malaysian cooking is, you know, and it's very tied to it. And for me, it's always been about the ingredient, because that's like, you know, if you want to cook something, you cook an ingredient, right? And I feel like with technique can migrate. So we do things like petai misos, we do budu with squid instead of like fish, and I think what's really important is that we discover our own country, we discover our own terroir, you know, and to I mean, what Dewakan does is we offer a different luxury. Like in Malaysia, this luxury, I mean, if you define luxury as something that's rare and that's hard to find, and not everybody has access to it, that's the kind of luxury that we provide. Most restaurants and who are doing what they do, and we have some amazing restaurants in the city and in this country as well. What they do is, you know, or rather, how can I say this? It's like it's easier for you to get Wagyu than to get, say, pheasant or a locally raised goat, right? It's you would not imagine how difficult it is to get quality goat in this country. It is difficult. And that's the kind of luxury that we're offering. So things like tenggek burung, you know, we have like right now in the kitchen we have got tara, which is from Borneo. We've got Litsia, which is Litsia cubeba. We've got kulim, which is Scrotococcus borneensis. We have you know, the look of wonder on our guests' face when they find out that tampoy, sentol, kulim, these are all fruit. You know, and not just towns and cities. Look on our intern's face, and who comes from who currently lives in Sentol and suddenly sees a Sentol fruit, is quite priceless. And I think that's really what we're trying to do. Is it's if it's not for the country, it's a discovery for ourselves.
Yeah.
And we've been very encouraged because we have great. I won't call them supporters. I think they're more like collaborators. You know, everybody who weighs in on us and say, "Oh, that's like fantastic." They put something on our Instagram, or they would find an ingredient and then they will hashtag they Dewakan ingredients list. And I feel like what we've managed to do is, as a culinary circle, was to expand what we do, and we expand it to everybody. So it's not exclusive to our restaurant, you know, because it's our country's heritage, and so it's great to find like small little restaurants. Before this, nobody ever used ulam raja, right? in their restaurants, if you're doing like a modern whatever. But now you start seeing ulam raja, you see tenggek burung, you see our bunga telang is like everywhere. You know, you know, and then we have, every time when I travel to cook in different restaurants, I typically bring two things or three things. One is rice from the Langit Collective. They make amazing rice. Well, they don't make, I mean, they bring down amazing rice. And then I bring chocolate from Chocolate Concierge. And what Chocolate Concierge does is they source their pots from Batang Kadi and Raup. And what they do is they make for us sort of like a special sort of blend. which we use, and I take that, and I would take kulim. Now, if you don't know kulim, kulim is also known as a jungle garlic, and it's like a tiny bit, means that you cannot kiss anyone for the rest of the day, right? It's like super pungent, and it's super. I mean, like you will smell it before you see it. And I take this everywhere I go, whenever I travel to cook. Up to a point where now that, well, right before the MCO, there are 2 restaurants who when regularly when they have people come down to KL, come to us and like pick up like about a kilo of kulim. So I'm like an international kulim dealer now.
Underground kulim dealer.
Yeah, black market, I think. But no, I mean, but this becomes our cultural heritage, our culinary heritage that we share with the world, and it's amazing to know that chefs around the region are keen to use it. We have like young chefs in restaurants in like Amber KL or Atas or Akar, and they're also, you know, just trying to get in on this and be proud of the ingredients that we have.
Okay, Chef Adu, you recently were in UK before this, and actually I'm quite interested. How did the UK people? We do have a little bit of a close ties with them, right? But maybe you can give an insight on how the international people look or perceive our Malaysian food, if I may say. Is the acceptance level, is it strong, and what is their feedback on the campur restaurant that you had?
When I started Campur year 2000, I ran it for 12 years. I mean, the restaurant itself runs, but it's completely, I don't own it anymore. So when I started it on year 2000, at that time, it was still difficult to get fresh banana leaves, for example. I mean, I could go to Chinatown, but they had only frozen ones. But then things got better. Now you can get banana leaves in Tesco all over UK. So, you know, it's not a big deal anymore. But when I moved there, I had to, for example, smuggle in. I have to smuggle in things that I couldn't get from the UK. For example, bunga kantan, daun kunyit, pisang salai, and all these, stuff that I couldn't get in the UK. But you still can't get daun kunyit or bunga kantan in the UK until now. You know, I mean, I go back once a year just to basically visit friends and all that stuff. The perception about Malaysian food, I mean, to them at that time was, oh, it's very much like Thai food and all that, you know. But my food, I mean, in my view, Malaysian food in general is not as spicy as Thai food, you know. And my kind of cooking is not, you know, it's kind of like medium low when it comes to heat, because that's not the way I eat. That's not my culture. I don't eat until my ears burn, because, you know, I need to taste the chili or whatever. But what I have to say is, the UK people, the British people were very, very open-minded about food. I mean, especially now, you can go to London and you can get any kind of restaurant, you know? So the struggle wasn't that difficult, but it was more difficult to introduce them chinchalo, tempoyak, and all that stuff. Be like Chef Darren, but I'm not as crazy as going into the jungle and pick up all these vegetables. But, you know, but I was already using our indigenous ingredients, if you like. Even people from Malaysia, if you come from Penang, you don't know what pisang salai is unless you come from Johor or, you know, south of Malaysia. So, you know, so it wasn't, but now everybody knows everything, you know, but it's so much easier now. So imagine trying to introduce that to the British palate. But I think with determination and with a bit of knowledge, and you share it with them. And I mean, for me, I think it was actually easier to open Campur London than to open Ada Sugar in Bangsa, in terms of how people respond to what you try to do. I mean, I try to do a bit more wacky sort of things on my menu. They don't want they want laksa Johor, so I give them laksa Johor, you know. So you know, I mean, I don't follow trend. I never follow trend. But the thing is, at the end of the day, if you run a restaurant, it's business.
It's a business.
It's business. Never mind all the whatever that you want to put on your, you know, about you or whatever. But if the business doesn't make any money, then you close down. So you have to listen to. Sorry.
So the food that you have at Adu Sugar in Bangsa, is it a full-fledged menu, or is it Yeah. I mean, at first I did it the European style. You have the starter, main course, in between courses and desserts and all that stuff. So when the customers came, they want everything at the same time. So then I changed
okay, now I do it tapas style, or I do like small plates, big plates, whatever, like everyone does, you know, because the thing is, I'm also, I'm still very enthusiastic about cooking, but I think I listen more than being perasan, oh, it's my food, you have to eat my food, or, you know, so I'm kind of like much more compromised now. And also because I think, because I've been back in Malaysia for 5 years now, and no, I came back 2015, so yeah, 5 years. And I also, I mean, in the way that I eat also, I mean, I changed the way I eat as well. I eat much simpler food. I eat, you know, I eat more local food. And, you know, I mean, if I go to Chinese store, I only want, like, basically, for example, steamed fish with ginger, but nothing else. You know, not Thai style or whatever. I just want very, very simple thing. Where when I was in the UK, I don't mind not eating rice for 1 month, 2 months, or whatever. I can switch on and off, you know.
Yeah.
So now what I do, I mean, I got good response now, but still for me, even at this age, it's still a learning curve for me running a restaurant and trying to put your craft across so that people can appreciate what you share, what you've been doing for all these years and all that stuff. It's not always easy, but I think it's very fun, you know.
Talking about restaurant, Anis, I'm looking at you. Is there any restaurant in the future that we're going to be able to go to? And so this is actually a question from our student. Some of them are actually very interested to go into the TV world. Can you just share with them what is your maybe obstacle or difficulties when you just started in the industry?
I would love to open a restaurant one day, but at the moment, I think that is something that I am able to give 100% time at the moment, because I'm juggling quite a bit of things. The second question is, what was that again?
Sorry, what is the obstacle that you face as a lady, like a lady, when you start in the TV culinary industry?
That was quite a bit of obstacle that I went through. When I started into the math, it was 2015, very young, and I just started working in a hotel at that time, and then given the opportunity to start my own show. And you know, when I studied culinary, I fell in love with it. I've always enjoyed. Started cooking when I was 9 years old. When I studied culinary, everyone asked, "Why are you doing this? It's really not. You're gonna end up working in the kitchen. It's difficult. Not everyone can do eat in this industry and all of that." But because I had so much passion in cooking, like I really, it's my everything, you know, that gives me joy. I don't find it boring, tiring. You know, every day, like every class I went to at site, and I'm still learning things every day. So when I started, people didn't really they can't take it seriously. One, because I'm a woman. Two, I'm young, and everyone knows that, you know, it's a male-dominated industry. So these are the type of comments that I received when I just started. You know, she's young, she is a woman, you know, all the chefs here in Malaysia. She's not married, has that maternal instinct going on. But you know, I didn't care about all those things, because my goal was encourage people to cook. You know, and now, like most of my friends who are don't really cook, because at this point, you know, not many people are interested in cooking, because you can get.
Sorry, I think we're losing you again.
Oh,
Mike, so sorry. Okay, but before that, we have another question from the crowd. This is also from our lecturer. So they are just wondering, maybe in the future, if we really want to go global with our local food, is ready-made or manufactured local food are the way to go? Are we going into producing our Malay food or Malaysian food in the factory to mass produce it, to just distribute it all over, just to let them know more? Do you guys think that this is the direction that we should go with? How about you, Darren?
Well, I don't think we have to put all our eggs in one basket, right? I think that there is a place and a time for some sort of mass-produced option if it's done right and if it tastes good, and if it meets like some sort of health regulation. And then there's a time for culinary ambassadors. I think there's time for restaurants outside of the country. You know, so I think like we shouldn't have to put all our eggs in one basket. I think the more we have a stronger narrative about what we're eating and what we're cooking, then that would be good enough.
Right, Darren?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I think I pretty much will give the same answer. I mean, let's not put, all the eggs in one basket. I think there's so many ways of promoting promoting our cuisine and all that stuff. And I mean, that's what I had been doing when I was living in the UK. And we actually had budget, but I mean, I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not going to keep it as a secret. We had budget to promote Malaysian food, but the budget was not used properly. The budget went to someone else's pockets and all that stuff. And then, but this has got to do everything with the people and the government. It's not just because we as individuals won't have the means to promote our own food outside of Malaysia without the help of the government. But if the help is basically done properly, I mean, we had, I don't want to name the project or whatever, but we spent millions and billions of ringgit trying to promote Malaysian food. I mean, have we succeeded? I don't think we have. I mean, people know laksa now, what laksa is and all that stuff, but have we actually matched with, for example, Thai food, Chinese food, Indian food, even Vietnamese food is more known than Malaysian food, I mean, outside of Malaysia. So, yeah, there are so many ways of doing it, but also I think, I mean, if you go, for example, I mean, I can only take Thai food, for example, because if you go abroad, I mean, you go to the UK, you go to Thai restaurant in Cardiff or in London or in Sydenham or wherever, in the state of the UK, the taste of Thai food is pretty much similar. But if you go to Malaysian restaurants, you go to Chinatown, and then you go to Marble Arch or whatever, they all got to, oh, your rendang is not the right rendang, and this and that. And, there's so much argument going on, but there's no togetherness. I mean, I was involved with the Malay heritage thing that we, as the government, did. And we had a discussion to basically, we call it like the heritage food. What is our heritage food? Nasi lemak, is it heritage or teh tarik or whatever? So I was in that discussion with other chefs. Instead of basically listing what Malaysian food is, they, not me, ended up arguing. Because, when I said, okay, bao, for example, bao, that is definitely Chinese. And one chef said, oh, but we have Malay bao. I said, no, bao is Chinese, bao is not Malay. Oh, the Malay bao is yang tak naik, So I said, okay, then I put my hands up. I said, are we discussing Malaysian food, Malaysian heritage, or are we discussing Malay food or Malay heritage? That's not the question, Yeah. Because I think, I mean, whatever is produced here, eaten here, made here by the people who live and were born here, it's Malaysian. So if we can basically get hold of, okay, what is, I mean, I'm not saying that, we should separate Malay, Chinese, Indian, or whatever, but instead of arguing, let's get together and do this list together, until, or Singapore takes this as theirs, or Indonesia takes this as theirs, and then we start arguing. For what? So this is part of the reason why we haven't actually succeeded to promote our food outside of Malaysia.
Yeah, I think we need to identify what we want to showcase, as Malaysian food. I think, before this, it's always like, oh, asma, is our national dish, and then we have rendang. Indonesians like, no, but rendang in Indonesia, which is true. But what Malaysian? What separates what differentiates Malaysian rendang and Indonesian rendang. Same with lemak, same with, everything that we have.
Yeah.
I mean, roti
Yeah.
canai is an app, but what?
Yeah.
It's that. And, and we have so many, Malaysia is a whole country, we have so many cultures, and those cultures contribute to, our food becoming food.
Malaysian food. Yeah.
It's what
Yeah.
we should highlighting. And I think to sort of spread away or to, put our food in the world's map, that is what we should focus on. Like,
Yes. Agreed. Yeah.
what, all the other similar food.
If I may interfere,
Mhm.
all right. Chef Anis did say about how we can identify the Malaysia, the special about Malaysian kind of food, or the national, or the identity of it. But earlier, when Chef Darren mentioned about the chicken here and there, like that Malaysian love all this kind of cheesy kind of thing. You can see that cheesy chicken out there. You can see Uncle A chicken, Uncle B chicken, everything chicken, chicken, and chicken. So how can you avoid all this to become the next heritage? I don't want to see that, being a Malaysian and also those people who is proud of Malaysian cuisine and proud of all those Malaysian chefs that
Yeah.
we have around us, So how do you think that we can avoid that for the chef?
Sorry, can I answer that, Prof? I think really I think really that solution lies in the fabric of our society, and it's what Anis and Adu are quite actively doing, and that's promoting people, or at least getting people back into the kitchen.
Yeah.
Getting back into the kitchen and cooking for families and cooking for occasions and just basically cooking for yourself. I think really that's that direction, because at one point you're going to get sick and tired of making that sourdough bread, and you're going to get sick and tired of making that cake. I happen to, I've seen these things trending. At one point you're going to get sick and tired of that, and then you're going to think about what my mom used to cook or what your grandma used to cook, and you say, you know what, I better do something about that. And I think that one of the first steps is to make sure that cooking is a important part of the fabric of our society, and this can only happen when we value things like ingredients, and when we value things like familial ties. I mean, how many times I know many families who, when they hardly sit down for dinner anymore. It's you sit in front of the TV, and even when everybody's together, they're in front of the TV, or somebody's like on the phone somewhere, something like this. It's not like you're trying to force this societal norm onto people, but I think like bringing having people realize the value of connection with family and with friends will encourage a active use of the kitchen. I think that's something that us as a society is doing. Look, I mean, like at the restaurant, we have young couples come in, and it looks like they're on their first or their second date and something like this, And instead of enjoying the meal and the environment and the company, you'd see half the time they're on the phone.
Yeah.
And they're Instagramming something or Facebooking or something, or scrolling something. I think it's important that as educators or as people with influence to not, you can't force someone to not look at their phone, but you can show them that there are better things to do. There's better benefits when there's reciprocation or communication.
Yeah, so a lot of people is actually asking me, so did you guys answering the main topic, nak makan apa ni, nak makan kat mana. I think the throughout what we have been doing is what we're trying to tell you guys. Where you have to go to eat is your own kitchen. This is what we've been trying to gel together. That we need to bring back the culture of cooking at home and eating at home. And what you have to eat is your own heritage food, our Malaysian food, something that we are proud of, right? Okay, so this is from the fans, if I may say. Just a little bit of additional. They are interested to know actually because when they imagine chef, they always eat weird things. So they want to know what is the weirdest food that you guys have ever tried. all of you guys. Maybe Darren can start.
I'm sorry, say that again. The weirdest.
Oh, sorry. The weirdest food that you have ever tried in your life.
I'm not sure if I should say that in public. I'm not very. I got no taboo lah. So usually anything I put in my mouth lah. You know, just anything. I've eaten everything from, say, monkeys to insects. Yeah, maybe I might draw the line at dogs, and I might draw the line there. But I mean,
what about you, Chef Adu?
one time I'll try it.
Oh.
Well, I mean, I think I cannot share it with you guys, so I'm not going to say. But I ate all those, crickets and scorpions, and it was nothing really. It wasn't a big deal. There was a book about eating all these sort of weird foods, and I'm like, hello. I mean, I grew up eating scorpions, so it wasn't a big deal. But if I could say, within our understanding and society and culture, being Muslim, I think the crickets and the belalangs and all that stuff in sort of China, I mean, I would just grab them and eat like makan kacang. I like that. Yeah.
I have a different question for Anis. Some of our viewers is interested to know. Oh, you want to answer that? Please do. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't say weird. It's more interesting and safe.
Nice. Yeah.
Noma did that. Yeah.
But there's also an interesting dish that I'm not used to that I had and I learned how to cook is cow's hide. That is in Selangor in a Javanese kampong. So they dry cow's hide for about 1.5 years until it's leather basically.
Yeah.
And it is cooked like 5-6 hours until it hydrates itself again and it becomes really thick, a little bit like the dried sotong, and it's cooked in coconut milk and some spices. So it's very creamy and very fragrant, and it's kulit lembu basically.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. See, we have a lot of ingredients in Malaysia that is not as explored enough because we all the time are busy looking outside of what people might bring in. At some point, everybody is eating quinoa. I was like, what is this thing about quinoa? We have so much grain in Malaysia. Our rice, nobody is eating our rice from Sabah. Okay, Anis, so we have one question from our panelists, our viewers. They are interested to know, in your own opinion, what makes a good video if you want to post online on content?
Well, that's very subjective. I think different people watch videos like they have different reasons why they watch things, right? To me, like what I like watching is like videos, pictures, or posts that's informative. That I learn from just Chef Adu's and posting. I do learn so much from them, and when I do my videos, I try my best to do that, to give as many as I can. Take that some people I've been told I don't like to hear you bail for 20 minutes, but then even like cooking, for instance, like scrambled eggs, if you want to get it right, of course, there's like, hundreds of tips that I can share, like what temperature of eggs you want to use, and, type of eggs, and type of salt, and when do you add all those things. So to me, those are important, like seeing all these little tips that you, as a viewer, someone who's trying the recipe, you will, you'll be able to see it. So without having to DM me 20 times asking me.
Oh, they do that.
How about you, Chef Adu? If you may add a little bit, what do you think people always tune to you? Why do you think they always tune to your cooking video? What they are looking for?
I think, I have actually been thinking. I don't get as many hits as Anis does, But the thing is, I think for me, it's more than good enough. But I think what people look at the video is basically I'm just so being myself. I buat salah, I show, even if it it ends up in disasters, I'll show it. I'll say, because this is not TV, there's no editing or whatever, and I'll try to keep the video less than 15 minutes. Otherwise, it gets really boring. And also I share all the mistakes, and I share all the melata, and I share all the membebel, talking about the government, the COVID, whatever that comes into my mind. And because they saw me on MasterChef, right? So I was this kind of like serious looking dude who didn't know what he was talking about, just came back from England, was thinking in English but saying it in Malay and Tabalik and all that stuff. So when they see me now, like, well, actually this guy is not bad. He's just like, he's just like any other home cook, and I like that. So I think I managed to portray that, because when I'm cooking for the videos, I'm not very chefy at all. That's just the way you cook. If you make mistakes, do it again. But I do basically share tips. For example, why the hell do I basically fry my onions first before my garlic and all that stuff? And then, but if you want to put them together, by all means do it yourself. Do it your way. It doesn't really matter. But I think, it's the honesty, I think.
Yeah. So Darren, are we going to see you on TV in the future?
I hope.
Yes.
You see, you have collaborators already. Is that the direction that you're going with?
Nah, man. I am very uncomfortable around cameras.
You'll get used to it, Darren.
It's not like I haven't tried. So I think that it's a big hallmark that I can smile on cameras now, on pictures now. I think that's already a big improvement from 5 years ago. The Dewakan is the only reason for me to practice smiling, actually. So, sorry, I think Anis was about to say something.
Yeah, Anis.
You should do like a documentary style, like like a chef's table thing. I still do that. I'll be your intern.
I think in terms of so I think like that's a passion of mine, is knowledge building, and so a documentary has definitely been something that we've been thinking about. It's just that with running the restaurant and doing a whole bunch of stuff, it does take time, and to move myself from the restaurants, we haven't come to that point where I'm able to leave the restaurant for a long period of time. And also, it's also the whole business end of it, trying to convince someone that it's a liable business investment. And we've been talking about trying to get ourselves into a book publication, and it's a whole back end world that just surrounds it. I think you guys know it. Yeah. It's not as easy as just showing up and smiling on camera, of which is also not very easy for me.
Anis, in one of your interview, actually we are almost finishing one of our few last question. In one of your interview, you tell the interviewers that your dream is to open a culinary institute. And what makes you want to do that, actually?
Because I find that it's important for us to preserve it, particularly in our local cuisine. I myself, as I mentioned, I'm still learning much, and the knowledge is endless. It's just, there's not one place you can go to find it. You know, that's the thing about Malaysian, traditional Malaysian. You know, not one place. You can't find it on the internet. There's not one particular book where you can get all the information from. And I find that it's important, you know, for us to preserve that. When I studied culinary, it's amazing. Classical French and everything, we learn techniques and stuff. But I felt very sad because I did not know about our cuisine. I mean, I know Malaysian food, you know, because I learned that from my late grandmother, from my mother, from my travels. But there's no, you know, it's not, if you, I mean, it's crazy to be comparing, you know, to the French does it. But we have that, you know. I mean, cooking Malaysian food is very easy.
Exactly.
You know, if not familiar with, you can't just, if they just follow the recipe, they won't be able to do it right, because it takes a certain amount of experience. It's like you need to be able to know when the chilies are done, when it's done sauteing, like has a certain smell and a certain, and it's, you know, only if you're experienced you'll be able to do that. So I want to be accessible to everyone.
Yeah, I agree with you. That is also why in our faculty this past few years we've been trying to look more into our heritage food, because I think when we started, because we were the first in the industry, we look a lot at what the French is doing and the Italian is doing, the European is doing, and we forgot that we actually have a very strong cooking culture in Malaysia. So these past few years we realized that, and what we did is we trying to come back here and contribute more into our local food, because we have seen that this is going further and further. Right, Chef Adu, last word to our students and our viewers. I'm sure they are all very nervous to join the industry with whatever is going on with the COVID, and you just opened Adu Sugar, a restaurant. Can you maybe have last advice or any last word for them?
I mean, for the ones who want to have their own restaurant, or basically just in general, you know,
in general,
culinary world. I think, I mean, the first thing is actually, I mean, firstly, I mean, I'm glad that UiTM is doing that to preserve our own cooking, because they didn't do that before, so they're doing it now. So because, I mean, one of my basically ambitions, if you like, I wish that one day, I mean, we would have a sort of Malaysian food encyclopedia, like everyone else's does. I mean, never mind the French, the Italian, whatever, learn all that anyway. I mean, for knowledge, for information, and all that stuff. But the thing is, I mean, try to, I mean, in my view, I think, I mean, if you want to be successful, anything, you have to be able to convey yourself into whatever you are doing passionately. Without passion, don't cook for a living.
Thank you. How about you, Darren? Any last word for our students, our viewers, our home cook viewers?
Yeah, actually, well, I wanted to right after Anis was talking about her school, and before Adi was talking about an encyclopedia, what I was hoping to say was, it's always been on the back of my mind to see if we could convince anybody else, because I don't want to do it, but convince anybody else to have an open source encyclopedia for all sorts of Malaysian heritage cooking. You know, Jawi Peranakan, Orang Asal, we're talking about Straits Chinese, we're talking about the different types of Malay cookings, from the Javanese, Bugis, Minangkabau, Sabah, Sarawak, all these, like, you know, like about 12 indigenous tribes there. And then also maybe even the various types of Chinese cookings. And then you can even countersect that a little bit more with by geographical location, like Chinese Kelantanese cooking and the South Kelantanese Chinese cooking are extremely different. And you can see from either side of the Banjaran, you find that Malay cooking is also extremely different. You know, and it's fascinating to see how that's also so twined in with the way that they live, and you know, socio-economical status, anthropological views. So I think that would be quite an interesting thing. As for all you guys who are budding and cooking, just borrowing a little bit from what Adu was saying about passion. Passion is not Passion is not feeling, you know, excited like 5 to 10 minutes when you learn how to fry an omelette. Passion comes with perseverance, and perseverance is probably the toughest thing. I mean, you talk to people who are successful in the industry, and you see they put in the 10 or 15 years of hard work, of being smart when they do things, being committed, and you might not do it the way I did it, but I've really put in a lot of hours. I mean, my face looks like this not because, you know, I like it. Because it's been a hard 20 years or so, and I've experienced some of the best things, but also some of the worst things, and you have to be prepared to not to accept it, but, you know, to roll with it at least. You know, there's some things you do not have to accept. You do not have to accept violence in the kitchen. You do not have to accept discrimination in the kitchen, racially or by your gender or by your sexual preference. You don't have to accept any of those things, but you do need to know how to learn how to deal with them, because that's just the way life is. So keep cooking, don't stop cooking.
Yeah, thank you so much, Darren. I actually see our Dean already online, but before we go to our Dean, any last word, Anis, because I didn't give you the chance just now, to our students that maybe want to join the industry or maybe want to join the TV industry, any motivation for them or anything that you want to share with us?
Sure. So, you know, doing this on TV, like cooking on TV, it's not easy as what people might think. It's not glitz and glam, put on my makeup and just cook whatever I want. There's a lot of research that has to go into it. You need to, for me, I never stop learning, ever, not a day. Every day I'll read, you know, about culinary. And as both chefs mentioned, you know, passion is very, very important. Because if you don't have passion, that's not what is going to drive to, you know, push yourself harder. So I believe that you need passion in everything that you do. And if you are passionate about culinary, then just, you know, do it, pursue it, give your all. It's really tiring. As I said, you know, although I'm not working in a restaurant, and I am constantly learning, constantly testing recipes, you know, that able to people, you know, the best. So if by all means do it, don't give up. You know, you won't succeed in a short time. You really have to give it your all and give it.
Thank you so much. And if I may just summarize our discussion today, because at the first, when I first started this session and webinar, the question that came to my mind is, what do we want to eat and where? So the answer that we get from our panelists, I didn't feed them any information, is to cook in your house and to cook our local food, to eat our local food and to cook in your house, to bring back cooking to your house, to cook together with your family, and to make them our culture back, to take back our culture of cooking at home. But before we finish, let me just welcome to the screen Professor Madya Dr. Muhammad Salihuddin Muhammad Zahari, Dean of Faculty of Hotel and Tourism Management, to give his closing remark. Welcome. Over to you, Prof.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
How are you doing? Hi, Chef Adu.
Hi.
Chef Darren.
Hi.
Chef Hanif and the Mr. Moderator.
Hi, Prof.
And all the participants. All right. I'm very sorry that I can't join you guys the station earlier, as I'm having a very, very busy schedule today. However, I'm very glad that you guys are with your ungrudging times of joining or willingness to share your precious knowledge to the participant. Okay, Alhamdulillah. First of all, I will rojak my language, right, guys? First of all, saya ingin mengambil kesempatan ini mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih and very thanks to you all for the first webinar. And then tanpa penyertaan anda semua, pasti webinar ini tidak dapat dijalankan. Terima kasih sekali lagi saya ucapkan, especially to those panel, the moderators, by sharing your knowledge to the participant. And saya bersyukur kehadrat ilahi dengan izin webinar ini dapat diadakan, dan program ini adalah usaha-sama Jabatan Seni Culinary dan Gastronomi UiTM Puncak Alam bersama dengan anjuran daripada Deputy Deans of the Research and Industry Linkages, and ia juga melibatkan kerjasama pensyarah daripada jabatan lain di fakulti. And we are glad now, at least after 6 years of fighting and working hard, then at the end of the day, we've been ranked at 31st in the world right now. Thank you very much for everybody who contribute to the what we call it, to our ranking. And program webinar ini adalah satu bual bicara secara virtual atau alam maya yang menggunakan platform Google Meet atau nama ringkasnya GM ya. Dan the tema nak makan apa? Tapi kat mana? That's kind of a very good topic with you, whereby you guys are sharing your experience in the industry during the Covid-19 dan ini menjadi satu trend kehidupan kita, berubah ke satu normal yang baru. Antara trend semasa yang terlibat adalah inovasi digital yang memudahkan penggunaan pengguna dalam membuat pesanan atas talian serta mencari lokasi restoran idaman semata-mata yang berdekatan atau yang jauh. Dalam program ini kita telah menggabungkan 3 ahli panelis kemuka yang semuanya dikenali di seluruh Malaysia dan in fact world, yang dapat memberikan pendapat dan juga perkongsian ilmu mengenai trend semasa. Thank you again Chef Darren, Chef Adu dan Chef Anis. Hopefully you guys are willing to be with us when we call you in the next series. Alright, hopefully you akan terima tawaran kita. Would you?
Ask you straight away.
Sekali, saya mengucapkan sekali lagi ribuan terima kasih kepada semua perkataan anda semua dan berharap semoga kita dapat memakan segala ilmu, bermanfaatkan segala ilmu yang kita kongsikan pada sesi hari ini. With that, thank you very much guys. Thank you everybody and so long everybody and cheers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Again, thank you so much to all our panelists for taking some time from your busy morning, and hopefully our students already get some input and get some motivation, and maybe even our viewers, they get to answer the question of where are they going to eat and what they're going to eat today. So again, after this, we are going to display the QR code on the screen. Please scan that QR code in order for you to get any certificate and also training hours. We're going to share the contact details of our chef later. You can go directly to them. But this session we have to end it because we run out of time. Thank you so much for the question. But please, maybe our next session we'll do much bigger, much longer with a lot more chefs. I doubt that we can get a brighter chef than this lineup. This is the best of the best, the cream of the cream. I'm so honored for them to be with us this morning. Thank you so much.